Hey, welcome to this training. My name's Carlos Redlich, and I've got a really cool guest for you today. Someone that I actually recently just met at a good friend's mastermind, and she gave me a really cool idea. Within like 2 seconds of meeting her, I implemented it, love it, and I had to bring her onto this show and onto the training so she can pass on her knowledge to you guys as well. So I've got Shawn Jones on this training today. If you don't know who she is, we'll dive deep into her story, so you will in just a moment. But guys, if you're listening to this, stop what you're doing and really pay attention, start taking notes. Shawn, thank you so much for coming on.
Carlos, thank you so much for having me. And, it shows that you and I had just met. I mean, we no sooner shook hands or, fist bumped, and we were already exchanging ideas just from a simple, quick conversation of how to grow. And it is really something that quick that can make a whole day change, a whole moment change. So thanks for having me on.
100%. And I had to give you credit because a few people, when I showed them the sweater, they're like, "Oh, that's genius. What a great idea. That's so cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't my idea, but it was a really good one. So I had to take action on it." So again, thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and actually start a little bit towards the beginning, maybe before you started your company. What I'd really like to get folks, what I'd really like people to understand is where you kind of came from, like what you started, and then what inspired you to start this company. And let's kind of start with that.
Absolutely. So my background, my specialty, if you will, is starting companies from the ground up, companies that have multiple divisions, because I love balance. And let's face it, there really is no such thing as balance. But in my world, that's as close as I can come. And I started my first company when I was 8 years old. I'm now 46. I swear, I think I came out of the womb just talking business, loving business. And for me, having companies is, yes, it makes me feel good, but it's really about the lives that I get to touch in the process. So once my companies get to a certain level, I usually sell off the divisions or the entire company. And so for me, coming from a recruitment background for career services, as well as service-based industry, everything I have done over all these years has led me to where I'm at today.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about where you're at today, because I know you and your husband have a really cool company together, and I'd love to
Mhm.
just kind of get an idea of what that is for everyone else here, because it's super cool. You guys are changing lives.
Sure. Well, my husband is the founder of our community. The company started out, this is now our 12th year. So 12 years ago, started out as a little small town networking group. And it started because at that time in a small town, there was only one networking group. And traditionally, networking groups, you have one industry per category. And what if that category is filled? Where do you go? Do you wait till that person no longer lives in the area or attends? And so it made doing business very difficult. And so prior to even knowing my husband, he was sitting there. He says, there has to be a better way for companies to be able to get out there and meet people. And his son at the time says, well, why don't you name it Network Together? And so 12 years ago, that was the original company, Network Together. And over time, Robert and I met, got married. I earned my stripes as CEO, and we've grown from that network together to the iNETrepreneur network, where we have magazines. We do a lot of publishing of books, magazines. We have radio shows. We still offer the networking community in person as well as virtual. And we have a community all across the world, literally. We're in over 18 countries, in over 25 states and over 18 countries.
Wow. Wow. So the company had already been formed, and then you, sounds like, kind of took it to the next level when you became the CEO. What were some of those things that maybe those first handful of things that you were like, okay, here's what we got to do to really start making some moves with this company?
Absolutely. And I'm going to bring this back to Robert, because Robert is the creative. I mean, we both brainstorm, we both come up with ideas. My superpower, if you will, is taking those ideas and helping to put systems and tools and processes in place. So he's throwing the ideas up in the air, and just as he's tossing them in the air, I'm grabbing them and say, okay, this is what we can do when we map it out. And then once we map it, then we come back together and push it out.
Got it. And when you were, you guys have, it seems almost like you have a big following, but I've always wondered, like, since we met, like, what are you guys doing for marketing? Is it like a paid ad strategy? Is it only offline stuff? Because I know you do a lot of offline stuff as well with like speaking and things like that. What are some of those things that have really made a big difference in the marketing?
Absolutely. Word of mouth is really big. Everything we do is focused on the relationships, because if you don't have a solid foundation for a relationship, honestly, you're not going to be able to sustain.
Hmm.
And so it's through the relationships. Have we put ads out there? Yes. But here's what we've done. Because of the relationships that we have created and we continue to create, and all the avenues that we give business owners and entrepreneurs to grow their companies, we've grown a lot because of the testimonials and the reviews of people saying, I am so proud. I was able to accomplish fill in the blank because of the iNETrepreneur network, because of Robert Jones or Shawn Jones. And so we have that huge social media following, and they see a bunch of our stuff go out, but it's because they're bragging about what they've achieved just from taking the opportunities. Like, you jumped on one yourself, just that simple recommendation, and you've run with it, and it's creating a buzz. And so what we've done is we create the buzz and others run with it.
So do you essentially have like a lot of affiliates? Is that kind of how it works then as well?
We do offer affiliates depending on the projects, but a lot of people are just so thankful for the buzz that it's created. Like, for instance, our first book, Art of Connection, which is a legacy book series, the first book that ever came out, we had 127 first-time published authors in that book.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's huge.
So think about this. You create an avenue for entrepreneurs to do something that they have never done before. And 127, those 127 people took to all their social media. They're sending images. They're sending their, oh my goodness, I didn't know I can do this, but look what I've done. That there creates the buzz. And then when people, their friends, their followers, their supporters are going, hey, right on, man, good job, what's happening? It's like that spider web effect, and it just grows and grows and grows.
I love that. I love that. There's a lot of folks, especially the ones who are listening to this, that are either currently in their business trying to get to another level, and then maybe some other ones that are just kind of starting out. As a CEO of the company, what are some, and I don't know if this is too broad of a question, but I've got to imagine that when you wake up every morning, you've got like your stuff that you got to get done. And what are some of those things that have to get done? Maybe like a standard operating procedure, or things that really all CEOs and business owners should be putting into action or doing on a routine basis. I'm not sure if that's the right way to ask that, but if you understand it, that'd be great.
I do. First and foremost, I put myself first. And by that, I mean every morning, as soon as my feet hit the floor, I come downstairs and I have coffee with my husband, and I check in with our kids. And I guarantee, because I have the same routine, that when I miss that, it's like the whole day is disheveled. So for me, it really is the routine. And then from there, as I'm having coffee and we're having our family time before the whole day takes off, then I start checking emails. What can I do quickly? Because once I actually step foot into the office, my focus is on money making tasks. Returning an email is not always a money maker, right? And you can bog yourself down. And so I love when somebody says, when you ask them, how are you doing? How's your day? Oh, I've just been so busy. I always ask, are you busy making money, or are you just busy?
Very good
It's
question.
amazing, and it's amazing how many people will stop. And at first, if they don't know me that well and they hear that, it can be a little jolting. But I've always had people come back and say, I never thought about how I'm structuring my day.
Mm,
What do I start with first?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I was getting, that's why I was so happy when I was able to get you on this show, because when we spoke, I'm like, wow, she knows like a lot of stuff. I mean, you gave me advice within 2 seconds of meeting me. That's just not normal, you know, like most people aren't that fast on their feet, you know, and you were like, oh,
Mhm.
look at this, we can make it better. I mean, I feel like that's a skill in itself. Is that something that's always just come natural to you, to see holes and just say, hey, this hole needs to be plugged, or this, you know, area needs to be fixed? Is that something that you developed, or have you just always been like that?
A combination. So yes, I was born with this. I can look at something very quickly. I can see where there's holes that need to be plugged. I can tell if something is just not aligned. And I can visually see it, and I can also hear it when somebody is talking. Uh, my gift is I will ask the questions as somebody is talking, and it gets me to the point where I need to be. But I also contribute my talent to growing up. My mom was a single parent when her and my dad divorced. And I had the father that always said, women have a place and it's only in the kitchen. Women don't do, and you can fill in the blank. And with that, money was not always there when I was growing up. So my mom would look at me and see, she'd say, Shawn, you got to figure this out because I have to go put food on the table for the family. And so I learned to just jump in. And if I didn't know something, I would find someone who did, and I would learn how to do it myself because I never wanted to be in a situation helpless. And
Oh,
so that actually drives me.
oh, that's really what if you're okay with it, I'd like to kind of go into that a little bit more. Like that seems like that's really interesting. I would have, just based on your personality, I would have never thought that your upbringing was like you were meant to be in the kitchen type of thing, because it seems like, I'm sure you can do all that stuff too, but like you are much more than that, you know? So at what age did that kind of happen, and when did you start saying, all right, maybe I need to start stepping up? Because it sounds like that's what you were doing. You're like, I got to figure this out. Like at what age did that start?
That's a good question. So for me, my parents divorced when I was about 13 years old. But because of my dad's personality and mine, it was like oil and vinegar. So here's a short little story. My dad back then, where everybody had green lawns, all the front yards were green on the block, not rock, right? When we actually had real
This
grass.
is in Arizona.
And yes, in Arizona at least. And I'll never forget, every weekend I would go out, and my dad was okay with me being a girl and hanging out with him and the guy neighbors, because they would always talk about the blades of grass and the fertilizing, and everything goes along with it. But he would never let me mow the lawn because that was not my place. So after him and my mom divorced, I'll never forget, he comes up one day and he knocks on the door. And as I open the door, he's looking over his right shoulder at the grass, and he looks back and he smirks. He says, oh, I see your mom hired a landscaper. And I looked at him. I said, yeah, your daughter. I had turned his masterpiece of a green lawn and I upticked it to where it was the greenest lawn on the block.
Oh,
And I got to have the conversations with the neighborhood men at that time. And that was my aha moment of, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter wherever you're in life. If you think it and you believe in yourself, you can do it.
oh wow, that's power. How did he take that? How did he take it when you did that? That's
Well,
a
I will say the smile soon washed away from his face.
gotcha, gotcha. Wow, what a turning point though, huh? I mean, you're that
Mhm,
young, and you're being told you can't, you know, don't go mow the lawn. That's like for guys to do or something, and then you end up doing a better job and making it the greenest lawn in the neighborhood. And how
mhm.
were the neighbors the same way, or were they like, oh my gosh, she needs to come do my lawn?
You know, looking back, we didn't have those conversations, but it was nice because the other dads in the neighborhood, they'd go by and they'd wave, they'd smile, I'd get some of the compliments. And that was it was nice because I proved that I can do it. And it showed even my mom, because in our family, we do have a generation like my granny, she had been married like 6 times. So grandpas weren't always there. My great grandma, same thing. So I do come from a line of very strong, independent women. And no, cooking was not my forte for many years. But if you needed the toilet changed or you needed the grass mowed, I was able to excel. And when I tie this into business, that's one of my whys is I love to help others, because I realized not everybody had those opportunities like I did. Some could look at them and go, God, it was the life of hard knocks. To me, yeah, was it difficult at times? But I looked at it as it was all lessons that I use today, lessons that I teach my kids and our kids, because we're a blended family.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. Do your kids are they part of the business? I don't know how old they are, but are they part of the business at all? Do they help out?
Yes. So Robert and I have a total of 4 kids between us. I have 2, he has 2, and we brought them together. When I look at my 2 that I brought in, my daughter's 10 and my son is 14. And yes, we do bring our kids. Matter of fact, my daughter just started working events. So when we
That's
have events,
cool.
I team her up with our volunteers, adult volunteers, and it allows her to build confidence because she's my adoptive daughter. She's had a lot of trauma early on in life, and self-confidence is sometimes a struggle for her. And by being able to be around adults and help out and have those tasks that are her ownership, which they are at those events, and it's not mom telling her to do this, she's taking the guidance of other adults, it has helped her in many ways. Now, my son, I swear, I think he is like a mini me. he Yes, he has been working events. He speaks on stages. He's contributed. He's also a 2-time international best-selling author as well.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, and to show how mature he is, just this last week, he comes home from school and now he's only in 8th grade. He says, Mom, I had to teach our science class. I go, what do you mean? He says, well, the teacher got sick. She says, Aiden, here's the lesson plan, teach the class, and I'll send someone in. And he says, I had to teach half the class. He says, but I didn't write the lessons. I just had to go over. And I said, oh, and I said, well, how did that work out? How did the other students, now keep in mind, 8th graders, how did that class of students react? He says, well, as I'm going over the lesson, they decided to talk. He says, I told them all to shut up and listen. I'm speaking. I'm like,
Whoa.
okay. And he says, by that time, the front office person came in and she gave me a thumbs up. He says, because they didn't know what to say.
Oh,
I thought, okay.
wow. That is so cool. Wow, that
Yes.
is so cool. You get some CEOs right there, both of them. I mean, that's so cool. That's like the best training grounds in the world. Wow. I mean, that took me back. I didn't expect to hear that. I've never heard that. That's just unbelievable.
Kids pick up. I don't know if you have kids yourself or
I
if
have one.
any of your followers have kiddos. They really pick up on what they hear the parents talking about, or partners. Maybe somebody's not married and they're just partners. Because our daughter, she heard us talking about one of our business associates that we've known for a number of years, and we've had great conversations, and he has personally taught us a lot. She named my husband's truck after this person, right? And which was positive. Our daughter, again, she's 10 years old. She says, Mom, we live in Arizona. She says, I want to go out and will you help me catch scorpions? I'm like, why? She says, because I can catch these scorpions and then I can bring them to school and sell them.
Oh my goodness.
She said that at 9 years of age. And I said, well, we have a pest control company, so no on that one. But
Wow. Yeah, it's
and
like breeding
yeah,
entrepreneurs.
yes, yes. And even if you teach your kids, we also believe that the kiddos can make their own choices in life. So if they don't want to go down the path of being an entrepreneur, because it is not steady, you're always having to find your clients, you're always having to continuously develop and grow. And so our son, who's our 14-year-old, his goal, he wants to be a cargo pilot. He wants to go into aviation and fly the cargo planes. He says, Mom, I'll do what I need to right now, but that's not what I want for me because I've seen what you and Dad have gone through.
Mm.
And it's not always roses. I mean, things can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. But really self-aware kids. I mean, I don't think that's common. I think you've got some extraordinary kids right there. That's really cool. The
Thank you.
uh, so kind of bringing this back to business and marketing and all of that cool stuff. Tell us a little bit more about like what happens when someone goes to your event, because I know you throw a bunch of amazing events.
Mhm.
How do people end up working with you, and what's that look like? Because that anyone who can get in your world should absolutely do it.
Thank you, Carlos. So we do host a lot of different events in person as well as virtual. Some of them are summits and conferences where there's hundreds and hundreds of people. We have masterminds that either we host or we co-host. There's everything we do, everything always comes from two places: heart-centered and education based. Education is the foundation of everything. If you provide excellent education, valuable education that people can use, and it's interchangeable regardless of the industry, they can use it anywhere at any time, they will come. And that's really key. So we get a lot of people that they're not interested in that weekly networking group. They're beyond that. I always say, look at Tony Robbins. Are you going to see him at a BNI meeting or team up or what? No, you're not. But you will see the Tonys of the world at masterminds, at events, because that's where the different type people come together, the different experiences, a lot of that education that people are just thirsty for. So some come just for the education. Some want to check us out because of our reputation, and they want to learn how they can speak on our stages and start really getting more involved in our community, especially because of the reach that we have. And it just blossoms. So people come to us for different reasons.
So for everybody that's listening to this, if you got any little tidbit of wisdom or anything from this, I highly encourage you to go check out Shawn Jones and her company. Where can people go to check that out? Is there a website?
Yes, you can go to iNETrepreneur Network. So it's like entrepreneur, but with INET at .com, iNETrepreneurnetwork.com. You can check us out. You're also welcome to call our office, 602-228-0907.
Perfect. And I'll make sure to include a link and all that information under this video, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. So guys, make sure you get a hold of her. Add her on Facebook if you can. I don't know if she'll accept, but do it anyway. See if you can, and definitely get into her world. Thank you so much, Shawn, for being on this. This really helps everybody out.
Thank you, Carlos, for having me today.